You all have it. Were you all given? Okay, for everyone's sake, let me just read it. A large portion of global air pollution is generated through transportation and the automotive sector. Hydrogen and fuel technologies are attractive technologies as they may reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the question for today is, are HFCT-powered motor vehicles sustainable and viable alternatives to conventional motor vehicles in South Africa? Do you all get our topic for the day? Okay, I'll just outline the competition rules. Learners are only allowed to prepare their opening statements. That is, you should have came with your opening statements prepared to the venue, right? The responses and closing statements will be prepared during the competition. Are we all clear on that? Yes. Only 5 learners are allowed per team and only 1 team per school. And for the 5 learners in the team, everyone will have a role to play. Each team will be given a chance to argue their stance based on their given perspectives. Were you all assigned perspectives? Yes. All right. These are the perspectives that you'll be communicating on. The first one is the application and benefit of the science or technology that you guys will be discussing about. What economic impact does it have? Like what are the costs involved to the individual or the broader society? Also in the social cultural perspective, what are the ethical and moral issues to be considered in the introduction of the science that you'll be talking about or the technology? And when you're addressing the political perspective, you need to ask yourself who owns the scientific knowledge or the science or technology. Are there any issues of equity? Now, these are just some of the highlighting questions for you arguing based on the perspectives that you were given. All right? This is the debate structure and the allocation time for each session. We'll have session, where's the lighter? Okay, that's session 1, right? Where you'll be delivering your opening and response statements. Your opening statements will be 4 minutes per team, right? And then the responses, you'll get 1 minute each, and we have 3 responders. And then the second session is the invisos. This is where you'll get time to reflect and also prepare for your closing arguments, right? And then the last session will be your closing statements. Each person will be given 4 minutes to deliver their closing arguments. Are we all clear on that? Let's please stick to time. When I'm done with my presentation, the timer will be projected at the back. Each learner is going to come and stand here and deliver their opening, response, or closing arguments. Are we all clear on that? Do you have any questions?
The closing statements and opening statements are only done by one person?
No. Guys, we have 5 members per team. 1 will deliver opening statements. The other 1 will be the first responder, second responder, third responder, and then the last person will deliver the closing arguments.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are you clear on that one? Do you have any other questions for me? Are we all clear on how our debate structure is? All right, thank you very much and all the best. But before we start the competition, I would just like to introduce our judges for today. We have Mr. Tembelani Mutoko from the Department of Agriculture. We have Ms. Zinde Fudo from the Department of Chemistry. And we have Mr. Mpongoshe from the Department of Physics. Colleagues, can you please assist me by moving the screen? Let me just clarify on the responses, right? It's your choice, ne? You decide as a team whether you want to oppose what was said by the other speakers from the other teams, or you can use it as a chance to strengthen your argument by bringing in more points to your argument. Are we clear? All right, thank you. Can we have all the opening speakers come and take their seats? Lighthouse and Hare.
Izawusokola isina for project focus project how about we look at
That's fine. It's fine. As long as we can see it.
Smile for the camera, you're live.
You're intended. And I'll put it on 4 minutes. Yeah. Lulazi, you'll come and stand here. That is your timer. Once it bomb plus, you know that your time is up. Thank you. Judges, are you ready? Over to you, Nzululazi. Pandulwazi. But I think it's fine also figure obviously Falinda will never because she's going to speak first.
Yes. Greetings to you all, honorable adjudicators, members of my opposing team, and the audience. Standing in front of you is Omhlema Caesar. I'm with my fellow members Andisiwe, Onamandla, Lihle, and Velisa. Today, our motion is based on the hydrogen fuel and technologies powered vehicles, suitability, and viability. Burning of the gasoline and diesel fuel creates harmful byproducts like nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and hydrocarbons and benzene. Vehicles emit carbon dioxide, and that is the most common greenhouse gas. Vehicles and automotive sectors are the major contributors to our air pollution. Automotive sector, or rather the automobiles, are crucial to the environment as they contribute tons of polluted air. It is believed that the hydrogen and fuel technologies will lessen the greenhouse emissions. Their invention of hydrogen-powered cars would play a huge role in our world, or rather country. Firstly, no fuel is required, so money is saved for everyone who owns a car. Fuel prices go up almost all the time. They are also environmentally friendly, they are better performing, and so on. They are more efficient than conventional internal combustion engine vehicles. They emit water vapor and they are warm air only. In South Africa, Hydrogen South Africa is a very, very good initiative in terms of helping to decrease the unemployment rate, and they are working together with the government to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. With all that being correct and bold, I rest my case.
Judges, are you ready?
We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use when we create them. Solemn salutations to the audience. My teammates and I, Sinawo Kongaba, will be discussing either the motion, are powered motor vehicles sustainable and viable alternative to conventional vehicles in South Africa in an economic perspective. Let me first define a hydrogen fuel cell. A hydrogen fuel cell is an electrochemical power generator that combines hydrogen and oxygen to produce electricity with water and heat as byproducts. This electricity then powers the car's electric motor. It has zero emissions, thus no pollution or contribution to the global warming. But the main question is, are the hydrogen fuel cells used in hydrogen fuel-powered vehicles sustainable and viable alternative to the conventional motor vehicles in South Africa? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the car will be powered by hydrogen with high fuel mileage that is created from the platinum. And South Africa is one of the largest producers of the scarce and expensive platinum in the world. Therefore, the country has a potential to export hydrogen to markets that are transitioning to the green economies. This will create great earnings for the country and stimulate wealth investment, economic growth, and job creation. South Africa has an opportunity to transform its own energy infrastructure and take positive steps towards a green economy if it can harness some of its own renewable energy and hydrogen generation. Harnessing these capabilities is key to building South Africa's hydrogen economy. The hydrogen fuel cells are cleaner and more powerful than conventional engines and power plants based on combustion. Hydrogen fuel cells are more efficient than many other energy resources, meaning it has more power and durability. It is a renewable resource with reasonable cost. This would assist with the conductivity of energy and economic wealth, leading to the independence of our country. In conclusion, we strive for a non-biohazardous economy that will have a positive impact in our economy and increase the gross domestic product of our country. I thank you.
Greetings to the chairperson, timekeeper, teachers and learners. The person standing before you is Kanya Kunwa, currently doing grade 11 at Tuvalito High School. I am not alone. I'm with Stacy, Damo, Ona Gozwite, Junior Tlangano, and Songeziwe Kapi. Our perspective for today is applications and benefits for basic sciences. Basic science meaning fundamental sciences. Essential science is a field of knowledge that deals with the theoretical and experiments research if the systematic knowledge of the physical or material world gained through observation and experiments. So I'll be delivering an example of application sciences. We really do not apply basic science without even noticing it. For instance, classic people used to start fire with rubbing stones together without knowing its science. When the stones are rubbed relatively together or other, heat is generated up to a certain point where it can be able to start fire. And that science has been applied to make matches quick, which can be quicker and easier. For an example, you can rub your fingers now, and please can everyone rub your fingers, then tell me what you feel. Exactly. That's what we are saying. That is what basic science is. I thank you.
greetings to the floor at large. Standing before you is, of course, your opening speaker from West Bank Senior Secondary School under the perspective of social cultural. So basically, what we see in today's debate is that we are dealing with nanoscience. So what is nanoscience? Nanoscience is the science of the creation, or rather the conventional energy sources whereby we produce energy or we produce technologies at a microscopic level. So basically, the hydrogen fuel cells. The hydrogen fuel cells are used to produce electricity, and the byproducts is simply water, the same water that South Africa needs since we're facing droughts. So basically, hydrogen fuel cells are used as a non-conventional energy source, reducing pressure on the government energy supply and appropriate sustainable development. And according to High SA, it is said that hydrogen is a clean energy source, and it reduces the carbon footprint. This is what we are aiming as South Africa, to reduce the carbon footprint and to also aid in having struggles of power supply, energy supply. So we need to clarify where we stand in this motion from the top. What we stand for in this motion is the people, how these hydrogen fuel cells impact people, how these non-conventional energy sources impact people, and how these nanotechnologies as a broad context impact people. So what we tell you is that nanotechnology has an impact on people. Of course, a lot of positive impacts, a lot of things that we're told that it can do. Yes, it is conventional. Yes, it has more power, and it has less expenses in the sense that we reduce the carbon footprint. But what we tell you today, based on the social cultural, is that the problem here is not with introducing the hydrogen fuel cells. The problem here is whether is it sustainable, whether it is sustainable, the application and policy is legitimate, and whether the efficacy is high or not, based on people. The main participators, or rather vulnerable participators in this debate, is the people themselves. So what's the point of introducing hydrogen fuel cells as a conventional energy source when people cannot even afford to have transport money, when people cannot even afford, the marginalized groups cannot even afford to buy themselves a bicycle as a mode of transportation? So what we say here is that we are not against the implementation of hydrogen fuel cells. What we are saying here is that why don't we as South Africa first focus on the marginalized groups that cannot even access power? For instance, the hydrogen fuel cells are mainly used in developed countries where there is an equal distribution of energy sources. So therefore, we as South Africa say that we should rather focus on giving an equitable energy distribution, in the sense that we have schools, or rather workplaces here in South Africa that do not even have access to electricity, places where people live that do not even have electricity for years. So members of the House, what we are saying here is that we should give people equitable energy sources before we move to hydrogen, because what is the point of giving a more complex energy source? This is nanotechnology. It is not just a hydrogen where we can just give people, here's your hydrogen source. What we're actually saying is that this is very microscopic. It is a very complex science, and it is important, and it is the way, the future for South Africa as a whole, to reduce carbon footprint, so that we have problems with our power. So therefore, what we say here is that we are going to use the indigenous knowledge systems that the people are using, and also to implement the viability and the sustainability of hydrogen cells. Sorry.
Greetings to you all. Standing before you is Andy Nakombanjo. I'm currently doing grade 11 at Sakululeka High School, which is in Fort Beaufort. So today, me and my team are going to present to you the topic that we were given, which is the impact of the greenhouse effect on politics. First, the greenhouse is a building with glass walls and roof that traps heat energy from the sun and is used for growing plants. The greenhouse effect is the heating of the atmosphere caused by the presence of greenhouse gases, which are gases in the atmosphere that absorb heat energy irradiated from the earth. The greenhouse keeps the earth warm enough for living things to survive. Just like the greenhouse, our atmosphere allows heat energy from the sun through it. That heat energy is absorbed by the earth and it reflects some of it back into the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere absorb that heat energy, acting like the glass roof of a greenhouse, keeping our planet warm. Even though the greenhouse effect is important, but it still needs to be limited though, because too much of it can lead to harmful effects. One of them is global warming, which is the increase on average temperatures on Earth. Because when the greenhouse effect increases, greenhouse gases also increase and temperatures on Earth also increase. And that can lead to an economic crisis, and that can negatively affect the country politically. Thank you.
Greetings to you. Greetings to you all. Standing before you is Banel Mkhaza, currently doing grade 11 at the Lighthouse Academy School of Learning. I'm not alone. I'm with my fellow mates, Indipile, Sinazo, Samantha, and Sibonokul. As previously stated, I'm hereby standing for the motion, and if I have your permission, I'd like to begin by saying, Honorable educators, Chair Lady, and the House at large. Our motion for today is under social cultural perspective. You must be wondering what social cultural perspective is. It is any viewpoint or approach to health, mental health, history, politics, economics, or any other area of human experience that emphasizes on the environmental factors, society, culture, and social interaction. Why is social cultural perspective important? While there are many approaches psychologists use to understand behavior, the social cultural perspective is the most useful for understanding one's group or subgroup. Or subgroup can influence attitudes or action, according to Lev Vygotsky. For an example, when creating a product, it is important to consider cultural perspectives. When creating a product, it is important to consider cultural perspective of the different groups of people who may purchase your product. For an example, the two-fingered sign in the United States, it is actually an offensive gesture in Ireland, Australia, and England. Psychologists use many different approaches that work together to understand and explain human behavior. Just like Vygotsky, he was a psychologist from Russia, former Soviet Union of time. He developed in social cultural theory. His theory asserts that learning is an essentially social process. So social cultural perspective is one approach to understanding why humans behave the way they do. It seeks to understand human behavior and personally development by examining the rules of social groups and subgroups when the individual member. Other times we develop our values and beliefs through our interactions or participating in cultural events. I thank you.
I would like to extend my warmest greetings to the adjudicators and other debaters present. My name is Gwatita Hlalu, and I'm here with Somdaka Amyoli, Kekela Mahle, Ngweni Abongile, and Joko Unako. We are here to explore the ethics and dynamics of applying hydrogen fuel cells as petrol and diesel replacement as a result of greenhouse gases, and we'll be doing the political perspective. Firstly, greenhouse gases are gases that trap the heat. They let sunlight pass through the atmosphere, but they prevent heat from leaving the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases produce the greenhouse gas. One of the best known greenhouse gases are methane, nitrous oxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and chlorofluorocarbon. Vehicles which have engines which combust fossil fuels such as petrol and coal produce these greenhouse gases. On top of that, these gases can create a lot of harm on the environment and people. They can create a lot of harm on the environment and people because they come out of cars, and cars that produce every day, and they operate every day, every single day, everywhere, anywhere, globally, causing global warming. Another thing, greenhouse gases cause loss of fertile agricultural land. People living in subtropical areas may experience diseases like malaria or experience climate change. By the way, temperature change can cause crop planting dates to shift, droughts and floods due to climate change may hinder farming practices. All of these damages are created by cars because cars operate on the road every single day. Meaning we'll have to look or find an alternative or an initiative to look for fuel. This initiative could be hydrogen fuel cells. A hydrogen fuel cell generates electricity using a chemical reaction. Each fuel cell has 2 electrodes, a negative anode and a positive cathode. The reaction to produce the electricity happens at these electrodes with an electrolyte carrying electrically charged particles between them and a catalyst to speed up the reaction. Hydrogen acts as the fuel in a hydrogen fuel cell, but the cell can work due to oxygen. One of the largest advantages of these fuel cells is that they generate electricity with very little pollution, as hydrogen and oxygen generates electricity to combine and produce water as a byproduct. Cells that use pure hydrogen as fuel are completely carbon-free. I thank you.
Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. My name is Atula Fete, and I'm from Panwazi Agricultural High School. These are my teammates, starting from the one after me, Zukhanya Maseti, Dineguhle Mioyo, and Yabona Makole. We will talk about the social-cultural perspective. We all know the level of education in South Africa is still low, so it affects the social-cultural view. In the meantime, those who are educated view air pollution that has a bad impact in the nation. And those who are not educated don't have a clue on the impact of air pollution. My teammates will tell us how to save planet Earth.
Greetings to our respected judges, my worthy opponents, and to the audience at large. I, Damle Inganati, accompanied by Bekwalisa Kanya, Maklobongo Anita, Nyamvu Kawekazi, and lastly, Charlie Inganati, hereby to briefly explain and imaginate your minds into the science, focusing mainly on the economic perspective in South Africa about the production of hydrogen fuel cells and hydrogen fuel-powered vehicles. Now, firstly, what is a hydrogen fuel cell? It is an electrochemical cell that converts chemical energy into a fuel and an oxidizing agent through a pair of redox reactions. Hydrogen fuel cells use oxygen and hydrogen atoms to produce electricity and energy. Now, what is a hydrogen fuel cell powered vehicle? It is an electric vehicle that uses a fuel cell to power its onboard electric motor. Now, these cells were invented by a scientist, a man called Mr. William Grove, and in the year of 1839. Now, these cells are proved to be very good at producing electricity, as it is one of our major properties, or I should say resources. Now, South Africa has been proven to have these resources and skills enough to produce these cells. So as investing in hydrogen is important because it can help diversify our South African economy. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that wonderful session, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give them another round of applause. You may now go and join your teammates and prepare for your response statements. Thank you. Judges, if we can hand over to you maybe for 5 minutes and maybe give a few comments after this first session that we have had, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Oh, yonke le okay. Now you can go. It's fine. Uzayiconnecta kwiphi laptop bra? Ngifakile awufuna uproject. I can go for
Can we have a person from Lighthouse? Lighthouse. All right, speakers, you'll be given a minute each. It's up to you if you want to oppose what the other teams have said, or if you want to strengthen your stance. You can ask questions, but the other responders are not, they do not have to answer you, but it's fine if they want to use their minute in answering the question that was addressed to them. All right, are we all clear on that? Thank you. First speaker, you may take the stand.
Greetings to you all. Standing before you is Letale Tumdwaho, currently doing grade 11 at Nzululwazi High School. Based on the motion on hand, hydrogen and fuel technologies, powered motors, vehicles are suitable and viable alternatives. Greenhouse gas emissions need to be reduced in our South Africa. In the help of hydrogen and fuel technologies, as they will bring viable and sustainable alternatives in the world, a large portion of air pollution will be reduced. Hydrogen South Africa are working hand in hand to train scientists to develop other alternatives to reduce air pollution in South Africa. This development does a very incredible job in the society because it reduces the number of unemployment rate, which is very high in our country. I thank you.
Salutations to the House at large. I, Sonabile Dawit, will be elaborating on the motion already stated on the economic perspective. The impact of oxygen would be the betterment of economy. By means of zero emission of hydrogen fuel cell, the economy would be reducing biohazardous materials in South Africa, fighting global warming by producing water and heat. Thus, the transformation to a green economy. This would be opening jobs branching around production of hydrogen from platinum most accessible in South Africa. Also, the economy would generate profit possible on selling outside South Africa, exporting. This would also raise the net worth estimated on platinum, making this initiative gives South Africa an advantage over other countries, given that it is the wealthiest country in platinum group metals. I thank you.
Greetings to you all. Standing before you is Someone Clappy, currently doing grade 11 at UFH High School. As my teammates have said, we use basic science without even noticing. For example, natural painkillers in our bodies. For example, when you are hit by a hammer, you immediately take your thumb into your mouth because the saliva in your mouth contains the natural painkillers. I thank you.
I greet the House at large. Standing before you is Lanela Tulichana from side West Bank, and I'll give a lengthy rebuttal on the political perspective. Yes. Now, in politics, we all know that it's all about power. Who has the most votes? Who will decide on the things that that concern the country? Now, what we expected from the team that was presenting on whether on the political perspective of things. Now, we wanted to know who has the power, who will be in charge, who will answer to the questions of the society, on whether will this hydrogen cell be able to be distributed to everyone in an equilibrium? Will this hydrogen fuel cell be produced by ESCOM or?
Greenhouse gases affect the country through having warmer temperatures, which leads to extreme weather and resulting in an economic crisis and affecting the country politically. There are poor countries that are affected by greenhouse gases. They have problems in adapting to climate change. These countries will have difficulties in having resources to protect their countries from suffering. Climate change has been described as the defining challenge in our lives. Thank you.
There is little to no transport. In some villages, the transport comes about once a week at 7 a.m. So when you miss it, there is no going back for you. You have to wait for the next week. Rural households need mobility to shops and markets for buying and selling, to inevitable services, hospitals and schools, to income earning possibilities, and to social cultural opportunity. And I have one question for my opposing team. Hydrogen is a flammable gas which is often used to make bombs. How would this be safe and be cost-effective for all? Thank you.
I am Amioli, and I am to respond negatively on the motion of applying hydrogen cells as fuel replacement. Hydrogen is expensive, hard to move around, and flammable. And by the power vested in me by science, I would like to introduce to you geothermal energy. Cars have been running on electricity for some time now, which means it is an option for us. Okay, so geothermal power is electric power generated from geothermal energy. Geothermal energy is a suitable and renewable energy source, and it is still largely untapped. Geothermal energy occurs when hot water is pumped from deep underground through high pressure, and when the water reaches the surface, the pressure is dropped, which causes the liquid phase to change into gas, and that creates steam. The steam then makes the turbines to spin, causing electricity that is connected to a generator to flow. Using thermal energy would be very beneficial because it is completely renewable. It does not use fuel to generate power, meaning it has no emissions. It can also help us with, thank you.
Greetings to you all. Standing before you is Zukhanya Maseti. I'll be talking about disadvantages and advantages of greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases have far-ranging environmental and health effects. They cause climate change by trapping heat, and they also contribute to respiratory disease from smog and air pollution. Extreme weather, food supply disruptions, and increased wildfires are effects of climate change caused by greenhouse gases. We have 5 major greenhouse gases that influence the greenhouse effect. They include carbon dioxide, methane, ozone, nitrous oxide, and water vapor. Effects of greenhouse gases. The greenhouse effects helps to maintain a certain temperature level on Earth's surface, making it habitable.
Greetings to the House at large. Standing before you is none other than Bekwalisa Kanya, and I will be elaborating further on what my fellow teammate has already said. So you may be wondering what's better. Well, firstly, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are environmentally friendly. They are more efficient than conventional internal combustion engine vehicles in such a way that they produce no toxic emissions, as they only produce warm air and water vapor, eliminating the costs associated with handling toxic substances just as diesel fuel. And as compared to petrol or gas, hydrogen is more fuel efficient as it produces more energy per pound of fuel. And this means that if a car is fueled with hydrogen, it has more it travels more further than a car fueled with the same amount of petrol or diesel. And even
Let's give them another round of applause, please. Take their seats. Can we please have the second responders take their seats? Second responders, please come up. Remember, whilst you are seated, you are also supposed to be preparing for the next session. That is, right now we're supposed to be preparing for the third responders, ne? You have to stick to time. Over to you, Jacqueline.
As my fellow teammate has already stated, fuel prices go up every time. Reason being federal taxes, distribution and marketing costs, profits, and so on. Fuel prices are determined by laws of supply and demand. Remember, these prices cover the cost of crude oil and all that. They say the cost of living is too high even, but we're already suffering from the food costs and everything else. A break is all we need. The invention of hydrogen-powered vehicles will help with this. More money will be saved that people could also afford to have savings, or rather afford their needs and wants. I assure you all that all the developments in the name of reducing air pollution does not only help the environment, but the society as well. It will decrease global warming and the alarming of unemployment rate in our country. These newly invented cars are environmentally friendly too. With all that being said, I rest my case.
I will be elaborating under the motion that has already been stated, under the economic perspective. The world population, including South Africa, increases exponentially, and the need for sufficient and uninterrupted energy supply also increases. So South Africa needs to create a strategy that will build more factories and employ people to work with the machinery and programming of robots that will manufacture the hydrogen fuel cells from platinum that South Africa is normally famous of. By doing that, South Africa gains an advantage to increase its tax revenue to be financially stable. This could lead to us having a green economy where there is an employment rate growth and income driven by the public and private investments that could increase South Africa's GDP. I thank you.
Greetings to you all. So I'm here to state more on the. I'm here to state more on the application of the basic science. So previously, it was believed that the lightning rods which were put on residential households were there to prevent lightning from striking anyone within the household. The science behind this is that lightning contains electrical charges that desire to join the large masses of charges on the ground. So the lightning rod has an ability to attract electric charges within the lightning. Mostly these rods are made of copper, as copper is a better conductor of electricity. Thank you.
Extending my most sincere greetings. Today I'll be doing a rebut under the application and benefits perspectives. The other school didn't give us anything to work on, but they told us about the heat and nothing about the benefits of it in our country. We tell you that transparency is the key. We need to know legitimacy and solid policy. We need to know about the benefits of it in our country, not the applications. We need practicality and realistic. Okay, thank you.
Great. Greeting to you all. And I'm going to talk about the importance of greenhouse effect. Without the greenhouse effect, there couldn't be life on Earth. Without the greenhouse effect, the temperature would be negative 18 degrees Celsius, meaning all living things would survive in such lower temperature. With the greenhouse effect, the average surface temperature of the Earth is 14 degrees Celsius. So, many South Africans already feeling the effect of climate change through a drought and flooding, which have any effect on their livelihood. Those who are dependent on the ocean for a living have already seen a depleted fish stocks. Amid changing weather, the patterns and the changing ocean,
Greetings to the House at large. I'd like to ask my fellow, I'd like to ask the people who are talking about the hydrogen cell fuels a few questions. Isn't it expensive to use hydrogen fuel cells? We all know that it is widely available, but hydrogen is very expensive. Isn't it difficult to move hydrogen? And how would we replace the cars that we have now with the hydrogen fuels cars? I thank you.
In response to what my opposing side said, using hydrogen fuel cells is not effective. There are some other ways to use renewable energy, like hydraulic energy and biomass. Biomass energy is an energy that is produced by living or once living organisms. It is a plant-based material that is used as fuel to produce heat and electricity. Hydroelectric energy. Hydroelectric energy is a form of renewable energy that uses the power of moving water to produce electricity. So these are some of the ways that we can improve our use of electricity and reduce our carbon footprint. I thank you.
As my fellow teammates have subjected that fossil fuels contribute to climate change and are non-renewable sources of energy, whilst hydrogen fuel cell technology is renewable and readily available. And hydrogen can be used in fuel cells to generate power just by using a chemical reaction rather than a combustion, producing only water and heat as byproducts. It can be used in cars and houses for portable power and in many applications. Hydrogen as fuel can be transformed into electricity to power homes and into fuels for cars, trucks, ships, and planes. Renewable energy solutions are becoming cheaper, more reliable, and more efficient each and every day. Our current reliance on fossil fuels is really, really unsustainable and is really, really painful to the planet, which is why we have to change the way we produce and start consuming energy. Implementing the hydrogen fuel cell technology as fast as possible is essential to counter the climate change, which is one of our biggest threats to our own survival. I thank you.
As you all know, every substance in the universe has its pros and cons. The first disadvantages of a hydrogen fuel cell is the hydrogen extraction. Despite hydrogen being the most plentiful element in the universe, hydrogen does not exist alone and so needs to be extracted from water via electrolysis, which is the destruction of ionic substances into simpler substances when electric current is passed through. This process requires a large amount of energy to achieve. During electrolysis, an electrolyte dissolves into water and separates into iron and moves through the solution, which conducts electricity. There is a water gas shift reaction, which is more efficient and less expensive. The water gas reaction involves carbon monoxide reacting with water, which produces.
Thank you very much, second responders. Another round of applause for all of them. May we please have our third responders on the floor. Thank you. Nihlale ngokwezitulo, please. Please have our third response. We have to nominate someone to give the third response. That's the problem with them. Guys, we're wasting time, or should we not give you points for this round? Okay, Zululazi, over to you.
Greetings to you all. As my teammates have stated, the development of hydrogen and fuel technologies is an incredible initiative. It evolves around the energy production that is not dangerous, and the production of hydrogen is always on hand, accessible. The production of petrol, which is refined from crude oil from deep underground, where initiate seas were located, they are not as accessible as the hydrogen. And I would like to counterpoint from the first responder of Bisho High. Hydrogen may be expensive, but I'm sorry, hydrogen is anything but very safer than petrol, and hydrogen is easily produced by using renewable sources such as wind, solar, or biomass even. Thank you.
All protocols observed. In front of you is a speaker from Hector Peterson on the economic perspective side. A question to the political perspective side, to be specific, Bishop High School. You stated that we should use electric cars. Did you know that in the process of making the electricity for those cars, coal is burned, releasing toxins in the atmosphere, causing air pollution and encouraging global warming? Well, my team and I state that we should go for the green fuels, because green fuels have zero emissions to global warming and they are much more safer. They are not hazardous to people. Ladies and gentlemen, Hydrogen can be sold in two forms, either energy or chemicals. In agriculture, they use hydrogen to form a fertilizer called hydrogen peroxide, which is a fertilizer to grow plants quicker and faster and sell to have a much more productive economy and earn income, creating a stable economy with modernized townships. Thank you.
Benefits of science. Due to the information acquired, mankind has become advanced and life has become simple and relaxed. Impossible has become possible due to the growth of basic science knowledge. According to the ISP Operations 2010, basic science provides the evidence base for responding to the many challenges facing lower middle income countries. Basic science knowledge leads to better ways to predict, prevent, diagnose, and treat diseases. Thank you.
Without wasting any time, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be doing a lengthy rebuttal on the economic perspective. So what you were expecting from the economic side of this debate was where will we actually get funding for these fuels? How will it actually promote economic growth? Now, ladies and gentlemen, to me, it looks like these fuels are actually doing more harm than good. A speaker from the opposing side told us that it will decrease global warming. But then looking at our country, these hydrogen fuels are very much expensive. So it will decrease this global warming at the cost of the money which we don't even have. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we are telling you that these current fuels that we have now are much cheaper and that we must stick to them until we find until our country has reached a time that is where distribution is more equitable. Thank you.
I'll be telling you more about the disadvantages of greenhouse effect, global warming that increases temperatures in our world, increasing of carbon dioxide that destroys plants and is destroying plants, and rising levels of water that leads to floods and mass rainfalls. If the government doesn't act quickly to these things, it will destroy many lives and leave a lot of people homeless. Thank you.
Sitting before you is Indipile Nabe, and what I'm about to say today is based on the hydropower cars. Instead of using hydropower vehicles, we can use solar cars. A solar car is a solar vehicle for use on public roads or racetracks. Solar vehicles are electric vehicles that use self-contained solar cells to power themselves from sunlight. Solar vehicles typically contain a rechargeable battery to help regulate and store the energy from the solar cells and capture kinetic energy from the vehicle during braking. Some solar cars can be plugged into external power sources to supplement the power of sunlight used to charge their battery. Solar cars combine technology typically used in aerospace, bicycle, alternative energy, and automotive industries. The design of solar vehicles also emphasizes
As I have been introduced, I am Ona Pontoko, and I will be responding to what has been said by my debate friends. I will be taking you through the wind turbine as an electricity generator. So, wind turbines work like this. Instead of them using electricity to make wind, like a fan does, they use wind to make electricity. But before I continue, I want to ask Hector Peterson a question. If the South African economy is able to sustain this technology and whether it is viable in our current economy, now also being perpetuated by the unstable government. Now I will be moving on to the advantages of wind energy. Wind is everywhere. Not only is wind present almost everywhere on Earth, we also have precise information about where it blows and most frequently.
Okay. Hydrogen fuel does not generate greenhouse gas emissions as for fossil fuels, thus reducing pollution and improving air quality as a result. To answer the lighthouse, hydrogen is as well as an energy. Hydrogen is not harmful, it's just an element. In conclusion, hydrogen fuel creates many opportunities to replace fossil fuels in different parts of our economy. And to answer those who are saying that fossil fuels are better than hydrogen fuel cell technology, I'm asking you that shall we live in a world that is rather harmful or a world that is safe? Thank you.
Hydrogen economy is a vision of an energy delivery infrastructure based on hydrogen as a carbon-free energy carrier. Seeing how high the rate of unemployment is in our country, producing hydrogen fuel cells and hydrogen fuel-powered vehicles would provide jobs to those who need them. Not only that, the country itself could grow economically. South Africa's access to the ocean as well as numerous solar and wind projects means the country is in a prime position to become a major producer and exporter of green hydrogen. Hydrogen holds the potential to provide energy services to all sectors of the economy, including transport, building, and industry. Not producing these cells ourselves would mean that we are missing a great opportunity to improve our economic status. I thank you.
Those were our last responders. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you so much. You may take your seats. We will now give you 20 minutes to prepare for your closing arguments. Please make use of our judges. They can give you a few pointers to prepare for your closing arguments, right? 20 minutes max, and then you'll come up here. You get 20 minutes to prepare for your closing arguments. All right, thank you. 20 minutes. Don't exceed 20 minutes. It's fine. Is everyone here? All right, we are now at our end of the session. We will be rendering our closing arguments. Can we have our closing speakers, please? Judges, are you ready? Timekeeper? 4 minutes? Yeah. All right. Over to you, sir.
In conclusion of all that my teammates have said, the invention of hydro-powered automobiles are a very good invention. They are very much safer to the environment and also to the people who use car or only rather work in the short facilities. Firstly, this development would decrease the global warming and then alarming numbers of employment rate in our country. Fuel is dangerous to the environment. It pollutes the air and all this leads to global warming. Hydrogen-powered automobiles are environmental friendly and they are much faster than regular cars. Hydrogen fuel cells make the cars more efficient. Their emission of water, vapor, and warm air is safer than the polluted air produced by regular cars. With that being said, I rest my case.
Salutations to everyone. I would like to first answer the questions. To answer West Bank, who should have known this as a political site? There are companies and sponsors willing to fund this project. For example, companies like BMZ, which are willing to fund projects that aim to produce strategic framework for green hydrogen economy in South Africa. To answer Bishohai, your question was like a statement. Unfortunately, we don't answer to statements. To conclude this, my team and I are certain that hydrogen fuel cell-powered vehicles are sustainable and viable alternative to conventional vehicles, as it has been proven that with production of 500 kilotons of hydrogen, it could create 20,000 jobs in 2030 and 25,000 jobs in 2035. Hydrogen can be used in many different ways. It can be used on natural fertilizers that would help the crops to grow healthy and faster, and that would help to the food security of the country. You alleviate poverty by tackling down the economy. In those words, I step down. Thank you.
Greetings to you all in the room in its maximum capacity, standing Prayoyo as Kamantama. I'm going to conclude on our basic science applications and benefits. Science indeed has unexpected applications. It isn't something that only scientists can do. We don't consciously go through those thoughts, what a waste of time that would be. But we learn from our experiences, and that is what science is. I would also like to leave you with the words of Louis Pancher, saying chance only favors the prepared mind. I thank you.
Greetings to the House at large. Standing before you is Latita Chelo, and I'll be the closing speaker from Westbank Senior Secondary School. Okay. Before I go straight to my team stance, I would like to actually highlight the factors which we as Team Westbank have seen and also experienced from other teams in this debate. It has been said that installing wind turbines, we have one of our opposing mates that actually said that we are able to know where most wind is, which basically means that it is actually inadequate, which means that some places won't get the wind since it's in some certain places. Towns receive different winds. So we also had from our opposing teams that solar cars are actually very expensive. And then we have hydraulic-powered machines. We are in the middle of the drought. How will we even actually get this to work? We actually didn't get much information as to how this will work. So we have our political side. Our political side mentioned factors, and also we had questions as Westbank as to who will actually supply these hydrogen fuels. Those were our concerns for the people that we are actually thinking about. So, and now on the economic side, we also received some factors, but then what we say is that a research from 2019 by Toyota clearly states that these hydrogen-powered cars cost around $50,000, which is approximately 900,000 compared to South African rands. Where will our poor government actually get this money when our people are already dealing with load shedding? Rather, actually take, as our team had clearly stated that we'd rather take all this hydrogen and also this energy, this time, this money, this electricity, and also donate it to certain schools which actually need it, which really need it, which would actually help us as the people of South Africa. We also, as Team Westbank, we need reassurance. We need reassurance that our people will actually get all that is being promised. Under the political side, the economic side, and also the application aspects, we need to be promised. We need reassurance that these applications will work. These political strategies, these economic strategies will actually work with this whole thing. So, with all that being said, we conclude as Team Westbank and say that we highly acknowledge the benefit of this whole thing, but our concern is on our people. Our concern as South Africans and also the equilibrium in the distribution of the power we're currently using. Now let us work on developing the people of South Africa first and then move on to another thing. Let us get back to reality, members of the House. Let us get back to reality and also first improve every single problem that we have in South Africa first before moving on to other stages. And with all that being said, I step down.
Greetings to you all. In addition of what my teammate said, the World Health Organization calls climate change the greatest threat to global health in the first 20th century. Even if efforts to minimize the future warming are successful, some efforts will continue for centuries. These include sea level rise, warmer and more acidic oceans. In my point of view, ozone has too much oxygen atoms, which can be harmful in the troposphere. And also the use of aerosol sprays also adds more complications. And what I suggest is that, the use of aerosol sprays, that adds more complication. That's why we must plant more trees and replace chlorofluorocarbons with halocarbons. You know why? It is because if greenhouse gases keep on increasing, it will cause the most dangerous greenhouse gas that is called sulfur hexafluoride. Nevertheless, the conclusion is that natural systems such as lakes and forests around the world are being affected by regional climate change, such as rainfall and wind. Particular temperature increases, and that these temperature increases are very likely to be a result of anthropogenic emission, which includes deforestation and fossil fuels to greenhouse gases. So we can reduce this matter by making power on site with renewable resources such as rooftop solar panels, planting of trees to absorb more carbon dioxide and reduce greenhouse gas emission. Lastly, we need to take care of our planet because it would be troubling for the next generation to suffer for our irresponsibility. Thank you.
Greetings to the House at large. Standing before you is Siwonikuhle Kamani, and I will be concluding this whole topic. As we all know, everything has their pros and cons. Hydrogen fuel cells could make a good impact in the world, but as we are talking about socio-cultural perspective, we are more about the people. And hydrogen is very expensive. Where will we get the money to buy these hydrogen fuel cells? Our government is already in debt as we speak. So I get that we're saving the environment, right? But how are we saving the environment at the cost of our people, at the cost of our lives? What world would it be without people? Like, it doesn't make sense. So we introduced the solar-powered cars. Several prototypes of solar cars designed and built are there. Solar vehicles typically contain a rechargeable battery to help regulate and store the energy from the solar cells and captivate kinetic energy from the vehicle during braking. Some solar cars can be plugged into external power sources to supplement the power of sunlight. I thank you.
Should I start? Okay. In conclusion, to West Bank, we can't really say who should own the hydrogen fuel cells or regulate them because we are so much against them. But the alternative that was proposed by us should be owned by the government because the government cares for the wellness of all citizens and promotes equality. To Hector, there are cars who run purely on electricity, which means it's doable as long as they are charged. Hydrogen doesn't occur naturally. It has to be extracted, then compressed in fuel tanks, then mixed with oxygen in a fuel cell. Once again, Hector Peterson. Wind is always there. What varies is the wind speed. So wind turbines can spin even on low wind speed. As for the biothermal, it can be built on separate land so as to escape its dangers. Water is free, hence we can look into hydropower. As of 2022, South Africa's government debt is around
4.3 trillion rand, and you still haven't answered on how we can work around that in our economic state, Hector Peterson. It is also time that in our parliaments and in places where decisions concerning the country are made, we should have scientists on those seats overseeing the country's innovative movement. In conclusion, ownership should be granted to the government so as to maintain equality. We should bring new skills to our country by letting science, innovation, and technology take over. This is a new era in innovation, and it's only fair that we give it a chance. I thank you.
Greetings, everyone. For the purpose of formalities, I'd like to introduce myself to you all. I am Linukuhlemeyo from Pandulwazi Agric High School. Hydrogen fuel cell technology has been brought to your attention by my fellow teammates, and I'm here to tell you on to how it can change the world. We are living an affordable lifestyle at the cost of living at the expense of our lives, endangering our country. Unlike most fuels, hydrogen does not produce greenhouse gases when it is processed. Instead, it yields water. So this means that hydrogen fuel cells does not contribute to climate change. Hydrogen fuel cells will not damage our environment. In fact, their use may even improve our surroundings. We as South Africans need to know the importance of hydrogen. Hydrogen is an essential of life. The universe isn't just about everything. We can say life for everything depends on it. Without hydrogen, we wouldn't have the sun to give us heat and light. There would be no useful organic compounds to form the building blocks of life. Pollution caused by fossil fuels affects every citizen, young and mature, educated and uneducated. Now we have to shift our knowledge to the only solution that is safe for us in our country. For us to be in the position of being safe, we need to save our country. Imagine in the next few years how the world would survive. Hotter temperatures, more severe storms, increased droughts, not enough food and more health risks. This is not the future that we want for the next generation.